Moving in with strangers can be kind of a scary thing. Just because you don't know them, you don't know if you've only seen one side of them. But moving in with your friends should be exciting, and it should be the start of kind of a new exciting chapter in your life. But for Nick White, could that have led to his murder? We're going to find out today on Investigating Iowa. Hello and welcome to Investigating Iowa. My name is Sarah. I'm excited you came back this week because we are covering the case of Nick White. This was actually suggested by a subscriber. She went to high school with him and she kind of said that this is always something that haunted her, what happened to him. And so today we're going to cover the case and kind of see what all panned out, which isn't a whole lot. There's not a whole lot of public knowledge to Nick's case, but we'll just kind of get into it. I will say before we get started, I mean no disrespect to any of the family members or the people that I'm talking about. I'm just gathering all this information through online resources, case files, videos, articles, and putting it into a video so you all can learn from it. In 1992, Nicholas White was born to Ron and Nita White in Pleasant Hill, Iowa. He was known to be quite mischievous, but also very strong-willed and determined. And he had a lot of people who loved him. Not only did he have 5 siblings and 2 very loving parents, but he had a lot of friends too. And he had a lot of friends through the activities he did. He was a huge track runner. He had multiple awards through track, and he also was quite the artist. He did a lot of different creative projects too. He would graduate from Southeast Polk High School and go to Drake University, and a few years later, tragedy would strike the family when Nicholas was found murdered in his home. On Monday, November 26, 2012, police were called to a home about a block away from Drake's main campus. At 1:45 in the afternoon, Ernie Mueller and Randy Watson came home and found their friend Nick in the basement unresponsive. They obviously had called police, but police said that this was a suspicious death because of how the body was positioned and where the blood was located. But they didn't give away much more information than that. They said that he had died from a trauma, and the medical examiner actually ruled his death a homicide. One of Nick's friends said to KCCI, "He was always a person you wanted to be around, and a lot of people gravitated towards him because he was such a kind person." That same friend that talked to KCCI said that he didn't know of any grudges in the household. He said that everybody was actually pretty tight-knit and they were all good friends. Police said that this was definitely a targeted murder. They didn't think that there was a murderer on the loose or that anybody should be fearful. They thought that this was a very targeted one-time instance. And then that brings us back to the comment that the friend made to KCCI. Actually, 400 people showed up to the visitation for Nick, and his mom wrote on her blog that they came out with that the investigators had a hard time finding anybody who didn't like Nick. And granted, that was coming from his mother, and we don't know for sure. But again, if they're having a hard time finding somebody who disliked Nick, then who could have done this to him? As I said, the mother had started a blog with her husband, and they were just posting updates about the case. Their whole purpose for starting this blog was not only to remember Nick and the wonderful things that he did and the people that he impacted, but also to remind people that nobody has been brought to justice for what happened, that nobody had been convicted or anything. So they actually put up a $5,000 reward to anybody who had information leading to an arrest and conviction for Nick's murder. On May 3rd, 2013, Nick's parents posted on their blog that 2 of Nick's friends who lived in the house with him and had been with him 2 hours prior to his murder wouldn't take a polygraph test. And this is kind of seen as suspicious. But again, polygraph tests are kind of up in the air. They aren't admissible in most courts. They aren't really something to rely on a ton because there's ways that you can trick a polygraph test. But they were finding it suspicious that his 2 really close friends weren't quite cooperating with police in this way. And so they were kind of suspicious about that. So there was a lot of talk in these open forums that I was reading that, why wouldn't they just take the test? Why wouldn't they just go and try and tell the truth and help the police the best that they can? But there was one writer who had said, maybe this was a traumatic event for these two men, and that they didn't want to relive it and have their heart racing and their bodies start sweating and start reacting as if they were lying because they were having some sort of PTSD from walking in and finding their friend. But a lot of people said, well, why not just, try? Why not? And I don't know. This is a really hard one for me because I can see both sides. But the parents were really concerned because they said, well, if you're a friend of Nick's, if you really are his friend and you really are trying to find him justice, why are you not cooperating with police in this way? And again, that's still something that's being very much talked about in these open forums. On May 8th, 2013, a few days later, the family had gotten together quite a bit of money to give in a scholarship in Nick's name to a Southeast Polk student, and that was the first day it was given out to a student from Southeast Polk. And so that was just a really nice way to remember Nick and to help another child as they go through their college experience. So that's all I have about the case. I really don't have much more, and I'm really kind of disappointed because it's been a while since this case happened. And I would think that they would have released more information by now, that maybe the public can help in a sense. It's not that I want them to release more information for morbid curiosity. It's more like if he had been with certain people that day, I would have liked to know that, so then maybe if I could convey that, then somebody saw them together or anything. And so I do question a lot of things about this case. And I know a lot of people on the open forums and his parents, even in their blog, had hinted a lot at one of his roommates maybe possibly doing something. And I don't know who all lived in the house at that time, and I don't want to really share that information too much because I don't want to cause them any trouble. But I also wonder, there must have been more evidence that somebody in the home had done it, somebody who had lived in the home, for them to rush to that conclusion so quickly. So I do ask you to be respectful in the comment section. If you're watching this on Facebook, please give us a like and follow us. We come out with content. We're going to be coming out with a lot of content this next month. I am going to cover a lot of very interesting topics, to say the least. If you are following us on YouTube, please give us a subscribe and ring the bell just so you can keep up with our content. We come out with the Cases of Our Neighbors series every Sunday, and we'll have sporadic content throughout as well. So with that, we'll see you next week.